Cashflow Diary Podcast, episode 160.
Welcome to yet another exciting episode of the Cashflow Diary Podcast, the podcast that teaches you insider tips, tactics, and strategies for creating leverage streams of cash flow into your life. Learn from top-performing entrepreneurs, business owners, investors, and thought leaders from across the globe as they share their secrets to success. Like what you learn on this and other Cashflow Diary podcast episodes? Go to learninvestingnow.com and sign up to receive powerful tips and information that will help you succeed as an entrepreneur and investor. Now, here's your host, investor, entrepreneur, business owner, educator, speaker, author, and master facilitator of Robert Kiyosaki's cash flow game, J Massey.
All right, guys. So, in keeping with the theme of the live, to give you guys some of a sneak peek, so to speak, behind the curtain, a number of you might be able to catch me out in the field. And what does that mean? That means it's time to take the show on the road for a little minute, which means I'm about to be going a few places. I know for some of you, I may see you later in Cancun this particular month, and others of you, I may catch you at a special event that we are doing. We're doing another one of our basketball camp and cash flow clinics, partnering with another group to make that happen. So we'll be having some fun with some, basketball taught by very qualified individuals to help us make that happen, as well as sharing some cash flow games, etc., instruction with the kids, and making that happen as well. So you guys know we totally enjoy those things. And then there's a few more events that are coming up. We'll tell you about them when it matters. But here's what we're going to do in this particular episode. What we're going to do is I'm going to give you an event that I did earlier and see if it can't help you have a checkup from the neck up. Most importantly, making sure that your year we're done with a quarter, right? So we've got to make sure that the year is going in the correct direction. So I think this is the perfect time to remind you of some of the things that you should be doing and still pursuing that you said you wanted to do from the beginning of the year. Here we go. How are you guys doing?
Great.
No, seriously, how are you doing? I still don't believe you. How are you doing? It's a new year. I mean, was the last year that good that this year is already so bad? You can't even be excited about it? All right. How many of you, so that I know, have never ever seen me before? You have no clue who I am. Oh, this is awesome. This is great. I love it. And how many of you have seen me somewhere before? Show of hands. Okay, hold on. For those of you who have, do me a favor. By a round of applause and your level of excitement, tell those who haven't seen me before how much fun they're going to have tonight. Go. Now, those few people were louder than everybody when I said, how you guys doing? So let's try it again. How y'all guys doing? Thank you. Awesome. How many of you have ever heard the saying, how you do anything is how you do? Exactly. This is why you want to play at the highest levels possible. Because it's a new year, but it doesn't have to be a new year. I'll just call that a new excuse. A new excuse for you to finally step into the person who you were born and created to be, in my opinion. I think too many times we let too many things get in our way from actually doing what we know, we believe we can do. And I know that that's true because you had the thought. How many of you are willing to admit you've had at least one thought that you I haven't taken action on that in the way that I should? Okay, good. I'm dealing with honest people. How many of you are liars? It's like one or two. So at the end of the day, what my hope is that today I was asked to say, what does it take? And one of the things that I've got to do is, because there's so many of you and there's only one of me and most of you don't even know who I am, which is fine. I've been somewhat incognito. That's great. I like it that way. And I want to just play for you some history, and I've put it in a video because it's faster that way, and give you a framework from where I started from so that you can say, all right, cool. maybe we have a way to actually make this thing happen. So let's go.
How I got into real estate, it's rather an interesting story. It's not typical. It wasn't because I woke up one day and said, hey, I can't wait to be a real estate investor. For me and my wife, it was kind of different. A few short years ago, I was a financial planner doing financial planning stuff, and I enjoyed that. I love helping people. That's what I learned from being a financial planner. I also learned that I could take something that is perceived to be complicated and make it simple. Well, that was good. Some of the challenges, though, was that my wife, when she's pregnant, she has a condition known as hyperemesis. And if you've never heard of that, I don't blame you, because I hadn't heard of it until it happened. We were in a situation that we were unfamiliar territory all of a sudden, immediately. It simply means she couldn't eat or drink while pregnant. She almost died a few times, and I was freaking out. And one day, because I was freaking out, I went to try to blow off steam, and I went to play volleyball. While playing volleyball, well, I jumped high, and I landed on a guy's head and punctured my lung. And that made it worse. I have asthma, and I developed pleurisy. Together with the drug interaction, I was unable to walk and talk simultaneously without fainting. So all of this was going on, and a friend came to me and said, you should become a real estate investor. I'm like, really? That did not make sense. But I listened, I went, and I'm glad I did. Even the way we started, we had a credit score of 398, couldn't put $75 together, but I didn't let what we didn't have stop us. It was one of the first times I've ever made a decision like that. Since then, getting started in real estate, we've been able to do hundreds of transactions in many different states and been able to help lots of people, lots of families provide clean, safe, affordable housing. We provide jobs, and we've got commercial property and international interests now, and it's just amazing what's possible when you begin to believe. And that's kind of, I think, what I want to say, is that maybe now it's time for you to begin to believe, because you never know what you're going to be doing. You don't know that you could meet the very person that is your role model. You don't know whom you're going to be able to impact. But here's what I do know. Your story's not over. Take it one day at a time, because you don't know who you can become until you're forced into a situation to try. I just wanted to feed my family. That's all my goal. I just want to eat. I want to make sure my kids eat. I want to make sure that we have, occasionally get to go have some fun, get to go do some things. I don't think that's asking for too much. But now it's turned into more. I've been able to help lots of people, either one-on-one or our group sessions. I've been able to help people get their first properties. I've been able to help people get their first single-family houses, multi-family houses, and many have even invested with us in various different capacities. A few years ago, I promise you, I would have never had that thought, that this would be what I was doing. But it is. I guess it's worth beginning to believe.
Awesome, thank you. And the major tool, while I'm thinking about it, the major tool that gave me a lot of the foundation that was required is that same cash flow game that you heard mentioned earlier. Been doing that for a number of years, teaching people to play. I lost track of how many thousands of investors I've taught to play this game. And it's a regular occurrence at my house. We literally have probably right now at least 13 board games at home, just in case a random cash flow game and some friends, come over. So, because it's just part of who we are and what we do all the time, and it's fun. I love it. I've learned to live it, though, at the same time. If you've played the game, you understand exactly what I'm talking about. Let me cover a couple of things, because there's some basic things people are always asking. How many of you are wondering how long I've been doing this already? Yes? Okay, great, because that's a very common question. June 18th, 2008 was the day that I purchased the very first rental property using a strategy known as Subject to in San Bernardino. It's a property that I still own today. Made a ton of mistakes, and we're going to talk about that here in a second, but that's irrelevant. The point is June 18th. Here's the thing to really understand, is that February 13th of 08, ladies, what is the day after February 13th? Valentine's Day. Yeah, you want to know what I got my wife for Valentine's Day that year? A foreclosure notice. It was awesome. should try it. See, if you aim for the bottom, every Valentine's Day thereafter is easy. So that was the day our house actually went to auction. I do live in Orange County at the time. We were living in Anaheim. So off of the 5 in Euclid, if you're familiar with that area, that's where we were. So from there to there is how long? Okay, so there's the answer to the other question. How long did it take you to do your first deal, right? If we have a credit score of 398, how many of you are familiar with the credit system? Okay, excellent, excellent. So by a show of hands, how many of you would say that that's excellent credit? Right, okay, so with a 398, how many of you didn't know they went that low? Right? It's not like we were shooting for the record low, but we hit it pretty hard. Here's my point. Is that, in your opinion, the time to start a real estate business? Yes or no? Yes or no? Yes, no, maybe, I don't know. The answer is absolutely. Can't get any worse. Well, actually, it could go down to 350, but I haven't met any of those yet. The point is, was banks an option? No, not at all. Not at all. And you heard me talk about $75. $75 literally would have felt like a lot of money, all right, at that time. $75. Now, if you have $75, and if you don't have, you can barely squeak by with $75 and a credit score of 398. Is that the perfect situation now? You like cash heavy and ready? You know, all cash closing? You ready for that? Right? You're even wondering where earnest money deposits are coming from? Do you understand what I'm saying? Yeah. Here's my point. Everything that happened to you as well as to me, we're going to call that tonight, so what? Say that with me. So what? We all have an excuse. We all have a reason. I'm too old. I'm too young. I'm too tall. I'm too short. I'm too black. Okay? I've said things like that because I live in Orange County. You know how many black folk there are? Yeah, you're right. You know, especially in my zip code where I live today, we actually moved the needle. Me and my family move in, and percentages of black folk change in that zip code because there's so few. So, is it easy? It's easier when we can see someone else who's been there and done that to say, I want to just do what they did. Make sense? It's much difficult when you're the only one. I didn't grow up in a situation in which people, we didn't talk about escrow and buildings and property, and trust me, it's really difficult to talk to moms now, right? It's just not the same, you know? She's like, my mom from North Carolina, I know you can tell by my accent. My mom will say, boy, that's because she says that, boy, what's going on? You seem stressed. And I'm like, yeah, you know, Mom, right now I'm waiting on this contract from Ace Hardware, and it's just not here yet, and I wish it was. She's like, huh? That Ace Hardware is one of my tenants, and that was one of the phone calls we had because I was stressed. I was like, it's not here. How many of you have ever waited for a lease to come back because you was like, I want this building rented like yesterday? You ever had that feeling? You're just like, where is it? And then when it's Ace Hardware, is that a small lease or a big lease? Big lease. Okay, got it. So you're looking forward to it, right? And that was the whole thing. How do you say, Mom, I'm having a bad day because now my building's not worth multiple millions yet? She doesn't relate. Make sense? And all of those things were things that were working against me. How I thought, how I didn't think. You heard me say in the video, it was one of the first times I didn't let what we didn't have stop us. And that's one of the important things to remember. What was going on in 2008? Just the summer of 2008. Crisis, bubbles, chaos. Yes? Write this down. Where there is chaos, there is cash flow. Period. Where there is chaos, there is cash flow. We as real estate entrepreneurs are fundamentally problem solvers. We just happen to solve problems that relate to real estate. Even more fundamental than that, we are business owners. But for whatever reason, we forget that. You put the word real estate on it and we go, I don't know what to do. Yes, you do. You need to go market and sell something now because you need a customer at the end of the day. Some of us call our customers tenants. Some of us call our customers home buyers, people that live there. Some of us call our customers fix and flippers. They're still customers at the end of the day. The standard business principles have always applied, but for whatever reason we forget. And then we were like, I can't do this real estate thing. See, here's what I have learned about many people when I've spoken in front of them. You spent far too long going to far too many clubs, talking to far too many people, reading far too many books, and listening to far too many different people, because you get excited every time a new one comes. You're like, ooh, I want to do that. It's great. And you can, but do one first. Do something. Because the most irritating thing to me, and again, don't take this the wrong way, is that I get irritated when people tell me I can't do it. I get mad when you say, Jay, you got lucky. Because what part of your spouse not being able to eat or drink is lucky? You couldn't walk or talk. Let me explain. If I was standing here and walked to here and tried to breathe and talk at the same time, I was on the floor. That was the situation. I wasn't worried, oh, how am I going to get out of my job? I didn't have one. I didn't have a place to stay. That was the mindset I was operating from. Here's my point. It's not to make you feel bad or good or whatever. It's to say this one thing. We're far too comfortable, and comfort kills dreams. I had no choice. I didn't choose to go after hundreds of units. I wanted to eat. I didn't really care if I had a commercial building. I wanted to eat. I even have a cell phone tower as a tenant right now. It's kind of interesting. Anybody in here T-Mobile? No? Yes? Cool. Keep paying your bill, please. Right? Because that's kind of neat to me. It's like, wow. But that wasn't like I wrote this out and this is going to be my 5-year goal. No, it's just so that I'm clear. Because it's key to me that you understand the mindset with which, how important it is you operate when you leave this room. Because you've been operating as if this real estate thing is an option. You actually think, oh, I don't have to do something different. Uh-oh, Jacob, I just did something. I'm sorry. My tech guy's back. Oh, yeah. I know I did. I killed the feed. All right, so I guess that explains a lot. For those of you wondering, the guys in the back where we're live streaming, if you have somebody at home that wants to watch, if you think you're like, hey, this might be actually good, you might want to tune in, you can go to cashflowdiary.tv/goals. Send them a text message right now, and they'll be able to watch right there. And then, don't worry, we're going to show you how to, oh, I messed that up. Oh, okay, perfect. Excellent. So, my point is, when we operate from comfort, we believe we have a choice. And here's the really interesting thing. How many of you have what we would call a JOB right now? You have a JOB. Excellent. Here's my point. You actually think you have to go to work tomorrow. Did you get it? You actually think you have to go to work. You operate from that as if it's mandatory, and what's really going to be able to set you free as if it's an option. And I find that interesting. And again, the only reason I know this is because I had no other option. I couldn't go to, there was no work to go to, and if I could, I'm like, yeah, my wife can't eat or drink, so I'm going to need to spend a whole bunch of time at the hospital, and I can barely walk or talk, so could you hire me, please? That's not exactly the ideal situation. This is important to understand. What you are endeavoring to do, you're learning to provide clean, safe, affordable housing to people that need it when it matters most. And you're learning to provide jobs at the end of the day. What two things do you think the U.S. needs specifically? Clean, safe, affordable housing and jobs. Guess who gets the privilege of doing that? Us. If we operate with the correct mindset. And I'm going to go through that as well. I was asked to talk about what does it take Because the idea for some of you, the idea of if I said to you right now, in 5 years from today, that you would guaranteed have 300 or more units, how many of you would just like, I can't even fathom that? You can't, you're like, that's just, what do you mean? How does that work, right? You short circuit. That's my point. You don't know what's inside. I didn't know either until I was given no other choice. People have asked me, Jay, would you have done the same thing if things weren't as tough? And I tell them all the time, the answer is absolutely not, because I was too darned afraid. And I think all of us have one huge, major addiction. How many of you are like, I'm not addicted to anything? I see you hear it in your voice, right? We have one major addiction, and that is preventing you from becoming the success that you want to be. And if you are willing to slay this one, you're good. You're addicted to looking good. Period. Because there are two things that you cannot do simultaneously. How many? Two. You cannot learn and look good at the same time. I have 4 children. The oldest is in college right now, Cal Poly. Whew, good Lord, is this a transition or what? All right? Right now, freshman year, does she look good when it comes to managing her schedule, money, food, anything? Shake your head like this. It's a disaster for all intents and purposes. But she's getting it together. She's learning. I also have a 3-year-old who's about to be 4. Now, if any of you have ever seen a boy that doesn't sit still, that jumps off everything and reinvents ways to use the couch, you know my son. Here's my point. When he was learning to walk, did he look good? No. He looked cute, yes. Then we call it cute. Later, it's like, dude, what's wrong? You know? And here's my point. What if he came to me one day and said, you know what, Dad? This walking thing is just too hard. I can't do it. I keep falling. I don't want to get back up again. Because if I get back up again, I might fall. You know what? I'm just going to crawl the rest of my life. Is that okay, Dad? What would I have to say as a responsible parent? No, because walking is a necessary activity. Necessary. It's not optional. Yet we operate as if learning some basic things like sales, marketing, are optional. I don't want to do that. I just want to do real estate. What do you think it is? You're selling a building to someone else who wasn't thinking about buying a building, especially from you. Am I wrong? But yet, we're like, how come no one's just coming to my door? It's because they don't know you exist. Because you haven't told them, I'm in business. That's it. And I had to learn all of these things. And it's about this point where I have to tell you something that you probably won't believe. I am naturally introverted and shy. See, I knew it would challenge. But here's my point. Let's just pretend that that's true. Did I need to learn a skill or two if that's the case? See, when food is on the line, you'll do whatever it takes. If you've never stared your children in the face when they said, hey, Daddy, what's to eat tonight? And you didn't have an answer, you'll operate differently. You'll get out of your shell. You'll do whatever. You'll hear no. In fact, you will literally, you want to know how to not take no for an answer? There you go. It didn't matter. It was, if I don't do this, we don't eat every day. Now, here's the downside to that. Once you learn to operate that way, it's hard to stop. You can ask many of my team in the back about how fast we move. We move really, really quickly all the time, and everything is urgent because it's been that way for so long. I don't know how to do anything different. And I just keep getting stuff done because that's what we did to survive. Got stuff done. What? Everything. And it didn't matter that I didn't have the skill set. So please, if you hear nothing else today, I need you to write this down and do it. I need you to fail fast. I need you to fail forward. And I need you to fail frequently. If there's anything that I have done correctly, is that I failed fast, I failed forward, and I failed frequently. I did so, yes, because I was motivated from the sense of we won't eat today. But I disassociated myself from my need to look good so that I could give myself permission to fail fast, to fail forward, and to fail frequently. And here's the thing. It's not your fault. If you went, how many of you are high school graduates at least? Excellent. How many of you went for more punishment and called it college? And how many of you went for even more after that? Okay, awesome. Excellent. I'm the college dropout. Hi. I was bored. Couldn't do it. Double major in electrical engineering, computer engineering, technology. I was like, this is for the pits. I do not want to chase semicolons, commas, and zeros and funny places for a living. The people that are engineers just laughed because they got it. They were like, yeah, I don't like that either. I didn't want to have to do that. So I was like, there's got to be something else, all right? Have you ever called tech support, like for anything? Yeah. You want to know who was on the other line? Me. Yeah, I was that guy, right? So that tells you my personality, me and computers got along real well. Me and people, not so much. And all I'm saying is I was willing to disassociate myself from looking good so that I could give myself permission to fail fast, forward, and frequently. Because our school system has done a horrible job at teaching us how to fail. We don't know how to do that. We grow up believing that we got to get it right the first time without any help. Anyone who's had any bit of success, have you failed? Yeah. Did you get it right the first time? Did you need help? Frequently, right? But most of us don't even know how to ask for it or go seek it. I was given the gift of having nothing, so therefore I had to find resources everywhere else. Currently today, we have a portfolio, like I said, it's a little bit more than 300 units, one commercial building, one cell phone tower. We're building a resort with some friends in the Caribbean. And to this point, I've never used a bank or any sort of traditional financial institution. Now, you applaud, but it wasn't because I was trying to be cute and sexy. It was, they wouldn't give me money. But I still needed, you still need money to get it done, right? But I wasn't going to let what I didn't have stop me. So there had to be people with money, right? They got to be somewhere. Banks aren't the only game in town. You're like, well, how did you do that? Yeah, I know. And that's what we're going to talk about, is what did it take mentally? What did it take emotionally? What did it take from all these things went into me being able to execute all the stuff you've already read. See, most of you, and many of you, how many of you are willing to admit that you've been involved in real estate long before me? Like long, like you're like, yeah, I'm still there, man. It's great, right? But you knew about real estate for a long time. But what's the difference? Fail fast, fail forward, fail frequently. That's it. I took everything that we're going to talk about today. I normally teach in approximately 7 hours. And somehow, we just don't have that kind of time. So I'm going to do my best to give you the nuts and bolts of what is required so that this year, 2015, right now, can become the year where you do something that has never been done in your entire family tree. Because that's what happened for me in 2008. My family, and the entirety of my family tree, there have only been 3 households, combined income that ever had $100,000 or more. I was the first person to do that at all. And we did it from June 18th to the end of that year. Not because I was trying to do that. I wanted to eat. That was it. I had nothing else on my mind. Eat. I knew that if I opened my mouth and said it enough times, there was someone out there who would buy something from me. And I just kept doing it. I did not have a website until last year. I didn't have a podcast. I didn't have marketing. I don't know really, honestly, guys, I'm literally learning right now how to place ads. I am a master at networking and referrals like nobody's business. Period. That is what I know how to do. You want to know how to market and raise capital using no money and no credit because you got no marketing budget? I'm your guy. You want to know how to do yellow letters? Better talk to somebody else. Can't help you. Not that. I don't know how to do that. I just know how to get up and get my butt out of the house, because that's where the deals are, outside, and go and make something happen. One of the first things I learned on the way was something called the 4 levels of learning. And I'm going to show you the point where most people quit. And that's the problem. See if you recognize yourself at some point. See, did we just skip something? Got it. One of the things that all of us are in is what I like to call the process of becoming. You're in the process of becoming more than what you currently are today. Call it whatever you want, put a label on it, I don't really care. The point is you're becoming something, which by default means you are changing, which by default means you are choosing to change. The only question is are you resistant to it? Because change occasionally puts us in this place called fear, and here's a secret. It's not that Donald Trump or Robert Kiyosaki or any of those rich dad guys don't experience fear. It's that they've learned how to condition themselves to respond differently to the same fear that you know today. That's it. For example, the habits and actions of an employee say things like, hey, I'm afraid I won't have enough money, so I better go get another job. Exactly. And if you don't have a job, it's like, oh man, I need a job, so I better put my resume somewhere so I can get a, because clearly this next one's going to be different than the last one. But do you get my point? See, that's how you respond. And we're going to talk more about that. One of the things that's the hardest for people to do is take responsibility. And how many of you have probably figured out that I'm not exactly politically correct yet? You figured that out? You're like, yeah, this guy's, he's, okay, good. This one is not going to be any more politically correct than the last thing I said. So here's the thing. I have never in my entire life woken up or met anybody who has said the following words in the morning. I can't wait to aim for the bottom. Have you ever said that? Like ever? I mean, you've been around a while. You've had lots of opportunities to say that, but you haven't, correct? So by default, that means you were doing your best with what you had, what you understood. I'm not saying it was good. I'm just saying you were doing your best. Which means that the result of your best is what you currently call your life experience, and some of you are dissatisfied with it. And guess whose fault it is? No one else's but yours. Not mom's. Yeah, I know mom had that crazy habit and probably messed you up real good. But it's not her fault. I know they didn't teach you about money and you don't like, yeah, but if this would have, I got it. Yeah, you didn't get into college and all this stuff. I got it. Nobody's fault but yours. That's it. And if you're willing to start there, you can begin to change everything. Because it's a choice. It's a choice. If you got bad money habits, you feel like you're broke, guess whose fault it is? If you feel like, man, I can't shake this thing, it's nobody's fault but yours. And the sooner you are willing to come to terms with yourself and let that be, the sooner you can begin to make some true change. Now, I'm not going to tell you what car I drive. That way my tires don't get slashed. Does that make sense? Because I know some of you are probably like ready to go like, you don't know what's going on. Okay, I got it. I hear you. I'm not saying the pain wasn't real. My pain was real. But how about this? What if that pain is actually the reason why you should become successful, so that other people who have the same pain have the ability to draw from what you've learned so that they can overcome too? Isn't that a different way of looking at the same thing? That's all I'm saying. But you never can put yourself in that spot because you're too busy looking at all the reasons it happened that weren't you when it was actually you. We've got to take responsibility. In fact, is there any CPAs in here? I'm just curious. CPA-like people? Okay, excellent, awesome. CPA-like, you get it? All right. Here's my point. Did you know that the tax code rewards people who takes responsibility? If you were willing to take on responsibility to provide food for other people, you know what you get? Tax break. If you are willing to provide energy for other people, guess what you get? A tax break. If you are willing to provide housing, guess what you get? Tax break. If you are willing to provide jobs to other people who you don't know, guess what you get? Another tax break. And then people have the nerve to get mad at me for providing jobs, food, and energy, and all. Why? Does the tax code only work for me? It says J can only provide. Really? What did I do? I read the book, maybe. It's no different. And even worse, us as Americans have done a lot of traveling internationally, and we are at a severe disadvantage. So guys, get it together quickly, please. Because then we get upset that other people from other countries come here to the U.S. and then they start doing great things, and we're like, how can they do it? They read the book and realized, oh my God, the rules say if we provide jobs, housing, and, well, okay, let's do that. And then we get upset at them. For what? They're the ones who took responsibility. It's not their fault. Do you get what I'm saying? And those are the things that we've got to understand. From that foundation, you can build all kinds of things. Raise your standards and don't accept less. But understand the principle of sacrifice. Sacrifice isn't letting go of something good and grinding it through. It's letting go of something good for something you perceive to be greater, whatever that is. See, when we're talking about the 4 levels of learning, you've heard this before. There's unconscious incompetence. You don't know what you don't know. Anyone know how to drive a manual transmission car? You're like, have you seen one? You're like, yes, excellent. You know how. All right. So you remember the first time you got behind that? Oh, yeah. She's like, doctor trip right after that, right? It was not good. You didn't know what you didn't know. You thought you knew how to drive. You see mom do it all the time. But you get there and then suddenly you're in the seat, right? This is what happens when you go to a seminar. You're like, ooh, that looks good over there. And then all of a sudden it's time for you to put your name on a contract, and you sweat and you fall apart because you're like, I don't know how to do this. I can't put my name on a contract because what if XYZ happens? You can fill that in with anything you'd like. See, when we're afraid, any excuse will do. And we often grab the one that our friends will justify first and easiest. And if you've got friends that are justifying your excuses, guess what I suggest you do? You get new friends. Now, I didn't say get rid of the old ones. I just said get new ones, right? Who won't justify your excuses that way. Because that's the issue that I'm trying to drive home. All right, so when you move from unconscious incompetence, we end up in stage 2 called conscious incompetence. We now know that we know nothing. That is what we are certain of. We are certain that those real estate guys, those people, they know a lot. I know nothing. But okay, maybe I'll try something and move forward. The challenge with this stage is that it's easy to get into and easy to get out of. If you fail to develop a perseverant character, that's where most people quit. Because it hurts. It hurts to feel stupid, like you don't know stuff. Because you raised your hand in class, you thought you had the right answer, you said it loud and proud, and the teacher goes, no, Jimmy, that was wrong. And then all the people started laughing. You're like, I ain't doing that again, right? And that's where you learned it, right there. When you do that in business, you don't make it. Because you want to get to conscious competence as quickly as humanly possible. Anytime I'm learning something new, my goal is to fail fast, forward, and frequently so I can get to conscious competence as quickly as humanly possible. Because then, at least now, I have an idea of what I need to do. I got to think about it, but I'm able to diagnose and look at my tracking sheets and understand, okay, here's what's going on. I know what I need to do, but I got to think about it, and it still work here, but at least it's not conscious incompetence. When you're at conscious competence, you begin to see the light at the end of the tunnel. You're like, oh my God, the seller said yes! Yay! Can this keep happening? Oh my God, what if this happens again? What if this happens again? Because see, that's what happened to me on June 18th. I was going around, and here's the phrase that I was saying all the time. Come to groups like this, and I was like, hi, my name is Jay. I'm a wholesaler. What that simply means is that I buy property at a discount and I sell property at a discount. What type of investing are you looking to do? That's it. That's my entire pitch. That sold houses, that raised capital, that helped me buy houses. That's it. Taught lots of people to use that, and guess what they're doing? They're selling houses, buying houses, and raising capital. Same phrase, still works. And then finally someone said, I don't want to buy any houses. I got something I want to get rid of. Really? Tell me about it. See, I knew enough that I didn't know what to say, but I knew a lot to ask. And too many of us are too afraid of, what do I say next? It doesn't matter what you say next. It's what you ask next. That's important. And that got me to the point to where we got a deal done. And I was like, whoo, this is awesome. And you know what happened 3 weeks later? I did 11 more. Because no one told me there was some limit. I could do as many as I want. Really? How long has that been true? Oh, well, why? How come there wasn't a class on this in high school? No one said that. Many of you still think you have to actually wait 30 days for escrow to close. Why? I mean, there are so many things like that that are just crazy. And then you get over to unconscious competence, and now, for whatever reason, you get in the stick shift, you just drive. Now, if I ask you your name, you respond. Now, if I said tie your shoe, you're like, yeah, I know how to do it, but I'm so fancy now, I don't wear shoes that have laces, right? You know what I'm saying? You know how to do these things without thinking about it. All of those things are things that get in the way, and I want to highlight the most dangerous 3 words on the planet. I know that. I already know that. Typo. I already know that. As soon as you feel like you already know that, you're lost. You're done. Because many of you, here's the thing, this has just been my philosophy for a while. So long as I learn one thing, I don't care how far I had to travel. I don't care how much money I had to pay. I don't care how long it took. As long as I get one new idea, just one, it was worth it. That's it. That's all I'm after. One new idea. And as you continue to go through these stages, as I said, you got to fail fast, fail forward, fail frequently. One of the simplest exercises that I teach anyone who's learning to wholesale. Anyone here learning to wholesale? Here's what I want you to do. In the next 72 hours, how many? 72. And how long is that? From when? Okay, good. See, I don't want you to say, no, he didn't say 72 hours from Pacific time or Hawaii time. No. Right now, here's what I want you to do. The next time you go to any retail establishment, they are trained to ask you one question. That question is simply, would you like anything else? Yes, have you heard this? Okay, so excellent. The next time you hear this question, here's the words I want you to say. And I do not care where you are. This is what I want you to say. When they go, hey, would you like anything else? Your answer is, yes, a 10% discount, please. That's it. That simple muscle is the key to learning how to wholesale. Ask. Open your mouth and ask, especially when it feels uncomfortable. You'll be surprised at what happens. Because we always get stories when we're teaching our students to do this. They're like, I cannot believe that worked. All I did was ask. I'm like, that's kind of the point. Just ask. If I can't get you to ask for a 10% discount at Starbucks, you are never buying a house. I mean, we're talking $495,000 or $495,000. The same skill set, just more zeros. right? But you put all this pressure on yourself and you can't ask it when it really matters. So I'm trying to get you used to building. I mean, like, anyone here like religiously go to the gym? Yeah? Where are you? Yeah? You go to the gym all the time? No, well, you're Californian, so I assume. But here's my point. Do you start out with 500 pounds at a time? 200? How about just the bar? Right? You start out with just the bar. This is my same point. Just ask for, 10% discount. I'm telling you, it'll work magic. You'll be like, I cannot believe that worked. I want you to do this until it annoys your spouse and friends. When your friends start saying, will you please don't do that anymore, now you have learned it. Until then, you've just dabbled. Okay? Because it needs to become a part of your second nature. Because as Americans, the culture is to not ask something like that. And that's a problem. You go outside the U.S., you go to wheelers and dealers everywhere. It's awesome. I get excited for it, right? But in the U.S., it's not the case. But I'm telling you, you're like, what does this have to do with real estate investing? Everything. Because you don't ask. Simple things like that. You've got to, because we all want to be right here. We all want to be in that zone. You don't even have to think about it. You just know how to do it, right? We all want to do that Michael Jordan thing or that Kobe thing. Or we all want to do that. Just like be able to, well, how did they get there? They failed fast. They failed forward. And they failed frequently. And they called it practice. All the time. How many of you are deathly afraid of speaking in public? You're like, please don't make me do that. Okay, great. Get over it. Because, and do you know, here's another one that I think is interesting. Because when you were little, mom said don't talk to strangers. Right? But what does a business do? Talk to people we don't know, otherwise known as strangers. Right? That's kind of funny to me. But mom said, is mom right? That was right then. But is she right for you now based upon what you want to do? Probably not. But yet you're still operating by rules long ago. And you're wondering, how come I can't be successful? It's because you're operating by the wrong rules. And that's the issue. It takes time and commitment, and most importantly, this is one thing most of you haven't made, but you think you have. You think you've made a decision. You actually think you know what that word means. See, there are many forms of this word cision. There's a decision, there's a precision, and there's an incision as well. Incision is to cut into. Precision is to cut before. A decision is to cut off. And you think you've actually made one. Let me illustrate. I'm going to turn to the left. By turning to the left, what have I cut off the option of being able to see? Right. Everything to the right. I'm focused on the left right now. I don't care what's going on back there. I'm focused right here because that's what's important to me right now is right here. If there's noise going on back there, it's irrelevant because my goal is over here. Whatever that is over there, I don't care. It could be great, shiny, people having a party, awesome, but my goal is over here. Let me tell you how this shows up. You're going to go home and say, I'm excited, I want to do real estate. Your goal's over here. CNN, constant negative news. It's going to be over here. And they're going to say something, and you're going to hear it, because they're going to say the words real estate. And real estate now is on your reticular activator, and you're going to hear it, right? How many of you ever been like in a busy store, busy restaurant? Someone says all the way at the back of the room, real estate. And you're like, what? Where? Yeah, that, exactly. And you're going to listen to him. That's the problem. You're going to listen. And then you're going to waffle between two opinions. Because you haven't made a decision. You haven't cut off the option of not going down that road. It's still available to you. See, my options were cut off. I had no other choice. Does that make sense? You are still operating as if you have a choice. You think that your job, your 401k, your IRA, or whatever it is that you're currently using for your retirement plan is actually going to be enough. You actually think I don't have to become more financially intelligent. Because why? Why bother? I work hard. Yeah. See, one of the things I was gifted as working as a financial planner in Orange County, is there any money in Orange County? Shake your head, yes. Okay. And I had clients in LA County that specialized with nurses, airplane pilots, teachers, firemen, and others. But my point is, that's definitely lots of doctors. The one thing I saw is that anyone who did not own rental real estate had no shot. Period. I'm talking to a lot of people. They had to have rental real estate in order to have a shot. Period. It was clear cut. It was like, you got real estate? Yeah, okay, cool. You got a shot. You don't? Ooh, you might want to get some real estate. Make sense? And you're still operating as if it's pre-1971. And I say that specifically because of the way money works. Because you think what's in your wallet is actually money, and it's not. And that's the problem. Having the wrong foundation forces you to make the wrong decisions. And that's a challenge. Now we're going to talk about the cash flow quadrant, because here's something else that you haven't learned that you need to know. You've seen this before, yes? Who has not? You've never seen this. Excellent. Okay. This is the cash flow quadrant. There are 4 basic ways. How many? 4 basic ways in order to earn money inside a capitalistic society. And yes, despite claims, we still are. All right? Here's my point. You've got E, the employee. They trade time for dollars. It's a direct one-to-one relationship. You go to your job, you get paid, etc. You come home. Awesome. Sounds great. That's the E. The S is the self-employed or small business owner. This is the person who has some specialized skill. They go, ooh, I went to extra college and I got a specialized skill, and now I can go out there into the marketplace. That's great. The challenge is they have no system, because they are the system, and if they get sick, they're still dead and done. Okay, B is the business owner. This is where things get fun, because this person owns and controls the means of production. The means of what? Production, producing a product or a service without them being present. That's awesome. I love that. And then I is the investor. You know the interesting thing to me? What investors do is they have their money go out and they want their money to come back with more friends. That's it. That's what they're looking for. But watch this. The employee, who do they look for? What do they need? They need business owners to provide them a job. Interesting. The self-employed person, let's call this the lawyer who's out there looking for the biggest and baddest clients. What is he or she looking for? The business owner. This is interesting. And the investor. Now, typically, they don't necessarily want to do the work. They just want their money to go out there and come back with friends, right? So what are they looking for? They're looking for someone who owns or controls a system that has the ability to produce more money. Who might that be? Wow, I find this interesting. Everybody is dependent on that one person. But who are we taught to be? I find that also interesting. And when you graduate, did you go to an entrepreneurial fair? Is that what it was? No? I mean, let me ask you. You were in economics. Basic supply and demand, right? Very basic. So if we have an oversupply, that means what? Typically as it relates to prices. What? Exactly. So let me ask you this. If we don't have anyone providing supply, we have high demand. And then what? Prices go up. Right. So do we have excess jobs? No. Why not? Because no one knows how to supply them. Simple. I'm not a genius. I just look at, hey, there's no one supplying jobs. Why don't I be that guy? Okay, how do you do that? Go buy a building. Hire someone to watch over it and clean it up when it breaks. I can do that. Cool, because you're not asking me to clean it up. That's what I love about rental real estate. All the systems are already there. The proof of concept is already there. You don't have to invent something new. And business owners are the ones that make
everything happen. And you and I, we get the privilege of being this. See, many of us think we actually need a job. You know, you need a source of income. Period. And you can use any asset to make that. As I've said, this is not taught in school. Who pays the most taxes? Which side, left or right? That's unfortunate. Who gets mad at the people that are not paying taxes, left or right? I find that interesting too. Who did something did anyone in this do something that the other couldn't do? No. You know what was different? It's their character, the things they chose to learn, and the amount of responsibility they chose to take. This person said, instead of spending all my money, I'm going to leave some so that someone else could use it. I'm going to take responsibility to make sure that there's money around for somebody else to use to go out there and do some good with it. I find that interesting. And they get rewarded for it. So, many of you, as I've said before, you probably have noticed that this is a longer presentation than we've got time for tonight. And I see a number of you taking pictures. Here's what we're going to do. We're going to give you access to this recording as well. Okay? We're going to give you access to the slides that you see right here. Here's what you need to do. Text the word GOALS, GOALS, to 949-682-3565. It's going to ask you for your name and email address. It's going to send you the slides and the video. Obviously, the video is not done yet because we're still recording it. Okay? So give us a minute. And for those of you watching right now, if you're not in the U.S., you can go to cashflowdiary.com/goals. And you can go ahead and put your name and email, and we'll send the same information over to you as well. Okay? That way you can focus. At the end of the day, I care that you get these concepts because from operating from this space, does real estate investing suddenly look different to you? Yes? Yeah, I hope so. Because you're on the path to becoming. I'm going to share with you the 8 steps. How many? 8 steps. I'm not into numerology, so move on. All right? The 8 steps that it required to make this thing happen. These are the only 8 steps. This is exactly what you need. This is what we are here to learn today, those 8 steps. Because here's the thing. How many of you consider yourselves an investor? Show of hands. Hold them high so I can see. Hold them high like you're proud, like yes. How many of you are not yet investors? Okay? I think you're lying to yourself. Let me tell you why. We are all investors. We are all given 86,400 seconds every day. How you have chosen to use them, however, has produced a horrible return. Yes or yes? Yes. And learning to use your time, the only thing you may have differently, is the key here. Does that make sense? Without this fundamental understanding, that's why I did all of that other stuff to say this one thing. I need you to use your time differently. What do you use your time to do? You use your time to develop new talents and skills. If you're afraid of speaking in public, are there organizations out there that could help you learn how to speak in public? Yes or yes? Yes. What's name one? Oh my God. And they're hard to find, obviously. Right? God, they're not even, it's just barely $100 a year. If you ever go to Starbucks like 4 times, you're there. Right? Time, talent, you should be using your time to invest, to become worth more. Jim Rohn has said, don't worry about how much you take from the hour. Worry about how much value you can create in an hour. And with new talents and skills, you can do that. See, one of the talents I had to learn to develop is how to hire, how to fire, how to find, recruit, train, and build teams. Because it's necessary if you're going to do real estate at any sort of scale. Unless you're just going to go crazy and like gray early and all that other stuff, right? You got to do that. But that's a new talent and skill. Here's what happens. With new talents and skills, you know what happens? You end up in new relationships. Because people are attracted to the person who has the ability to get something done. You're like, oh, you can use my money? Yes, I can. You can provide me a job? Yes, I can. Oh, you need some help with that? I sure do. And those new relationships lead you to credit, more importantly, credibility, because you think credit has everything to do with your FICO score. It's not real credit. You know what FICO really is? Really good marketing. Like
really good. Like so awesome, we cling to it. My precious FICO. Oh, my FICO. I need thee. We cling to it. That might hurt my credit. With a credit score of 398, do I have a different perspective on this now? Would you know the only thing that has ever caused me trouble with is renting a car. That was it. I bought houses, rented property, but I couldn't rent a car. There were times I would swipe my debit card, because, 398, you ain't got a credit card. I swiped my debit card. Now, mind you, I had enough money in that account to buy the silly car. And they're like, I'm sorry, Mr. Massey, we can't rent to you. I'm like, why? Well, it says here that your credit's not good. Okay, how can I just buy the car then? That's kind of what I'm thinking. I'm just like, dude, seriously? And then we just find another company that understood. But that's the only thing I really had trouble with, is renting a car. Everything else kind of operated as normal and on cash. It was awesome. It was kind of interesting. But I wouldn't have known that because my precious FICO. I need my FICO. Why? For what? See, when you have credibility, real credit, I'm talking about the general store type of credit. Hey, you knew Bob, who was the grocer, and you said, hey, Bob, look, I'm a little short this week. Here's what I can do. I can pay you back in 2 weeks, but I need groceries today. And Bob said, okay, because he knew you, and he knew you were good for it, etc. See, that's real credit, and you gain that credibility when you are out there building those new relationships. That's what happens. That's how you're going to get a deal done. It's not some slick marketing. It's not some, what's the tricky word to say? What is the escape clause that I need? What's that contingency clause? Subject to inspection? How about that one? It's good enough for me. Doesn't need to be much more than that. Okay? Then, once you have gained credibility, then and only then do you get access to someone else's cash. I'm looking for something very particular. Give me a second. Does anyone have a bottle of water? A bottle of water. I need a bottle of water. Excellent. Excellent. How many of you have ever drank this bottle or a bottle with this label on it? Ever. How many of you have ever drank a bottle with this label on it? Ever. Okay, so when you purchased this water, you said, hey, what's in there? You're like, I don't know about this one. Well, maybe this one. Right? You inspected it, right? You did a chemical test, didn't you? You wanted to figure it out to this nth degree. You weren't going to consume this. You want me to buy this without knowing everything about it? How many of you did that? What? What's the problem? I think you probably already get my point. That's the problem, is that these brands have credibility with you. You just bought them. You didn't care. You don't know what's in it. You really don't know. They just says water. We hope it's water. Doesn't vodka and water look a lot alike? I'm just saying. So my question to you is, why did you buy it? They had credibility with you. You liked them. You trusted them. How the process with which they put the water under contract didn't matter. You just bought the water because you were thirsty. You had a problem, and you knew that they could solve it for you at a price you were willing to pay. Man, that sounds like a real estate transaction. And how much does that have anything to do with your credit, FICO score? None. At all. Zero. Are you capable of solving someone else's problem? Yes. Yeah. That's all I'm asking. And if you can solve it for one, can you solve it for two? And if you can solve it for two, how about 20? How about 200? At what point is there a limiting factor? It's all about systems at that point and scale. Now, I've forgotten whose water was which. Right? But they had credibility. And once you gain someone's credibility, guess what they'll give you? Cash in exchange for the service or product that you're providing. Awesome. I buy from this guy. What's your name, sir? I'm looking right at you. Yes. Yes. My name is Dilbard. One more time. Dilbard. People buy from him for a reason. Why? Period. That's it. He doesn't, if it's broken, but he tells you it's broken. Does that make sense? He's gained credibility. He can solve your problem at the end of the day. Could you imagine if you needed to go to the hospital and you're bleeding and you're like, I'm scared, you're bleeding. The doctor comes in and they look maybe, 20. You're like, ooh, what's your credit score before you touch this? You're bleeding. Do you want to die? No. Well, then doesn't matter. And that's the issue. Can you solve my problem? Yes. Great. Then let's go. That's why my credit score didn't matter. That's why what I didn't have didn't matter. Then you get over to cash flow. You do it enough times, you can build a business and a system that produces cash flow. And then from that cash flow, you can build some equity. And then from that equity, that's what many of us are seeking, is some sort of significance or influence. That's how Cash Flow Diary and everything that I am doing today started. I got to a point where we had about 117 units. I got very, very bored. I spent an entire summer playing with photography equipment and remote control helicopters because I never had them when I was little. And I'm like, I'm bored. I need something else to do. And I got depressed. What am I going to do? Because the interesting thing is, when you're, at the time I was like 37, I'm like, all my friends are at work. And I'm like, what am I going to do? Who am I going to hang out with? What am I going to, you're like, you can only pay for dinner so many times. Right? You're like, hey, let's go on a cruise. I got to pay for you? Oh, that sucks. You can only do that so many times. And then I decided, what happened is that 2 business mentors of mine passed away. That's what happened. And my youngest was 1 at the time. And I wondered to myself, what would happen if I passed away? Yeah, they could have real estate. Great. But is that really what I need to pass on? No. Because see, the true asset is going to be the experience that you have overcoming fear, dealing with the person that you were born and the person that you can now have the choice to become, and teaching people how to do that. Document that process. And that's where Cash Flow Diary began. And then someone said, hey, I bet you adults would want to know. I'm like, really? Okay, let's find out. Turns out he was right. And that's exactly it. This is what I do on a daily basis. This is how I do it. This is the mindset I operate from within so that I can get to higher levels of significance and help. I am here for this one person. There's one person in this room who's been quiet. I don't know who you are, but I know you're here. Because I was in the back, quiet, sad, and discouraged, hoping, looking for a solution. And real estate was it. Real estate was it. As I said, you got to learn how to use everything that you have. You've got to believe some basic things. And where is Lisa? How much, am I over time yet? Keyword being yet. How many is a few? 10? Oh, this is going to be awesome. All right. So again, this is where I remind you, you can 10 goals, text to 949-682-3565. And you can go to cashflowdiary.com/goals. You'll get a copy. We have a pre-recorded version of everything that I'm going through right now. You'll have access to this as well as the slides. So you'll be able to get those as we go. So if I don't get a chance to get something, you'll still get it. Does that make sense? I'm trying to make sure that I can help. You must believe 4 basic things. How many? 4 basic things. And they are, 1, that you are offering the absolute best you can to the person whom you are dealing with, period. Yes, there are other options, but you are still giving your best. And that needs to come across, and it comes across only when you are convicted that you are giving your best. There may be other options, but you realize you don't always have to be the quote-unquote best option to get the deal done? Because clearly McDonald's makes the best hamburger, right? What? They don't? But they sell a whole lot of them. That's all I'm saying. You don't have to be the best option. The other thing that you've got to learn to do is find out what people need. How many of us have a need for water?
Like you just can't like live without it, right? There's no option. They need what you have. It's one of the reasons I love real estate. Because if I wanted to, see, my challenge, here's another reason I prefer real estate, is because I'm not smart enough to invent the most awesome piece of technology on the planet. Does it make sense? You get where I'm coming from? That's just not something, my mind does not work that way. I don't know how to do this. But how long have people needed a place to stay? That's a really long time. And write this down. People need a place to live, work, lay, or play. And eventually, it'll all make sense to you because you need a place to live. You're going home tonight and you have a place to live, right? Excellent. So that makes sense. But what about a theater, a movie theater? You know what that is? That's play real estate. The place where you work or go to businesses, Home Depot needs a piece of real estate. In my case, Ace Hardware needed a piece of real estate. They needed a place to house everything that they do. That's kind of cool. And then lay. How many of you have figured out that at some point, you will no longer be alive? Is that news to anybody here? And you get laid to rest. Where? You have a need for real estate then too. That's pretty darn awesome. The way that I look at it, you're laughing. But let me tell you why this is important. And some of you might find your start with this idea. Are there any baby boomers? Anywhere? They've begun to retire, yes? So that says something for the stock market that you need to be paying attention to. But let's talk about the real estate play as it relates to the baby boomers. Because at some point, will they no longer be alive? Yes, at some point. So how many of you right now are putting together a strategic marketing plan to buy all the funeral homes and burial plots on the planet? Because will they need them? You see, he's smiling. He's like, I didn't think of it like that. When do you buy the business? When it's performing horribly. You don't wait till all the customers get there. They're coming. They can't avoid it. At all. There will be no 1995 sale by today and today only, because there will be lines. It's kind of morbid, but you get my point. There's no avoiding it, and it's real estate involved. Somebody's going to take that idea one day and just run with it. It's going to be awesome. They're going to become the mortgage, the funeral home king or queen. And then what's going to happen? You know what's going to happen? Once that happens, you're going to be up late one night, and you know what you're going to see? You're going to see a seminar that says, buy funeral home plots for no money down. You're like, what? That sounds great, because everybody's dying right now, and I want one of those. And you would have missed your opportunity because I just told you it exists right now. You wouldn't have, you're like, you're here, you're alive. Now, your kids are going to say, man, I wish, Dad, why didn't you buy some funeral homes? I wanted to go to work. Ooh, okay. I thought that was a better plan. You realize that we're doing our buyers and sellers a favor? You don't need that buyer. How many people in LA County? How many? 12 million. So that buyer is really that important that you have to chase them down on their voicemail 12 times a day? That seller? Seriously? There's only, 11 million more to talk to, because you haven't talked to all of them yet. Here's when you can tell me real estate doesn't work. After you talk to all 12 million people, and you asked all of them to buy from you. When that has happened, please call me. I will come and help you out, because there's clearly something still wrong. But if you haven't done that yet, you do not have my permission to quit, because you probably haven't actually started. You talked once, got your hand smacked, and you stopped. Fail fast, fail forward, fail frequently. You also think that you're the one losing, and you operate from this position of, oh my God, if I don't get this deal, it's over. No, it's their loss, not yours, if they don't do business with you. Why? Because they don't get to deal with the awesomeness that you are.
You're like, I don't feel so awesome right now. Doesn't matter. You were fearfully and wonderfully made. That's what I've read. And therefore, you're awesome. And they get the opportunity to meet you and deal with you because you're going to do the absolute best for them, aren't you? Yes. Your best, and that's all that matters. It's their loss. There may be a better deal, but it's still their loss. Because again, does McDonald's care that Burger King sells hamburgers? Not really. Not at all. So, here's some homework. These are normally done as assignments that I give, and when you go and watch the videos, etc., you'll see. You need to write down some reasons, because here's the thing. I can tell you today, but unless you do this work, nothing will change. You've got to come up with reasons why you're the best, why you think people need your service. By the way, real estate is a service business. It has nothing to do with the house. It's so about the service. Okay, what problem are you solving? You got to understand that and understand why people are so lucky that and how you are doing them a favor and why it's their loss. I say no. If you fail to do this right here, I promise you, it's not going to matter. How many of you can't stand objections? You actually think they exist. You're like, I hate getting objections and being told no. Here's the point. Every objection that you ever get can be answered if you are willing to answer these questions right here. Because every one of them attack one of these things. The customer is saying, I don't believe you're the best. I don't need you. You need me, etc., etc., etc. But if you do the work and answer those questions, you'll never have a challenge with any objection. I don't need to teach you what to say when someone says this, that, and the other. What do you believe? Tell me that. And when you believe stronger than they don't, you win. And they'll go, well, maybe he's right. That's it. You got to also learn to move at the speed of instruction. At the speed of what? Instruction. How fast is that? Let me put it this way. It leaves no room for your better idea at all. You're like, I got a better idea. I'm going to do it this way. Well, have you ever done it once? No, but I'm going to do it this way. How about the way the guy said first? Make that work. Then decorate it and have some fun. For now, just do it the way that you were told. Learn that and move at the speed of instruction. See, growing up as a military kid, I learned speed of instruction. Just do. There are no questions. There's no room for your better idea. I should make the bed this way. No. Do it this way. Okay. You learn these things. Move at the speed of instruction. And at the end of the day, you've got to figure out the strategies that are going to help you stay motivated. Because how many of you have figured out you're going to have at least one bad day between now and your destiny? Okay, good. All right. Sometimes those bad days come all in a row, right? And they really never stop. And you've got to understand why you're doing this in the first place. What did I say in the video? What have I said today? I was doing this because I wanted to eat. That's kind of a powerful motivator. How many of you are people you don't want to be around when you're hungry? Exactly, right? You're like, please, your friends are like, please get some food in her, then we can talk, right? That's a powerful motivator. You haven't done the work to even understand why you're doing this. You think, I just want to make more money. Especially right now, this time of year, you say two things. I want to lose weight. I want to make more money. That's wonderful, but it's so shallow, it doesn't motivate you at all. And you got to understand that there are ways to figure this out because you don't know. What you're going to do when you start doing exercises like this, you're going to take 10 minutes and ask yourself, what would you like to be known for this year? If other people were talking about you, what would you like them to say? That's the most perseverant person I know. She's so giving. Wow, he's awfully friendly. He's the most politically correct person I know. No one is ever going to say that about me. Right? That's what you want to think about. Then you want to also think about what would you do? Because here's my permission. I'm giving you the permission to do this. If you knew 100% that every offer you wrote got accepted, every person you asked for money said yes, if you knew without a doubt that that was going to happen for you every time you opened your mouth, what would you actually dare to do? What would you actually dare to do? See, when I ask myself that question, I start saying, well, I'd build a resort. Oh my God, it's a lot of work, guys. What if? But I give myself permission to think beyond the reasonable and rational stuff that we tell ourselves we actually could do. Well, if I did it this way, I don't care about how. Just go there and give yourself permission to do that. What would you have this year if you knew you could not fail? It's not an option. It's no longer possible. Everything you did. I'm going to walk on water. Great. Now, there's only been one person who's ever done that successfully. Well, two. But you're not him or either one of them. But you get my point. And then here's what you're going to do. You're going to order that from smallest to the largest, the things that you consider small all the way to the largest things. For example, some of the things that I put on my list the first time I did this is that I said I wanted to have Guitar Hero with wireless guitars and play it all day. Yes. Who's with me? How many of you like it? Thank you. See, I know you're like, hey, it's Guitar Hero, man. That's awesome. Well, I still have the drum set right in my living room right now. It's awesome. It's great stuff. Got to try it. Whatever you consider, it's about you, not what your friends think. What do you think? And you got to put dates next to them. Yeah, you're making commitments here. And you got to understand that there's a dollar cost to them. I don't care if the only thing you want to do is free Willy. Freeing Willy ain't free. Make sense? It costs money. If all you want to do is save and hug trees, great. It costs money. It's got to come from somewhere. And you need to figure out how much it's going to take to make those things happen. The whole thing that I've done for you today, I hope, is to give you clarity. Because with clarity comes power. The power to do two very amazing things. Decide and act. That's what I was given. Clarity. There could be no muss, no fuss about it. I was clear. I need to eat. Period. If I don't do this, learn to speak, learn to write an offer. Guys, you got to understand, my first transaction, it literally went down a little bit like this. Hi, my name is J.A. I'm a wholesaler. What that means is that I'm looking, I buy property at a discount and I sell property at a discount. What type of investing are you looking to do? I'm not looking to sell or buy any property. I got something I want to get rid of. Oh, great. Tell me about it. Awesome. Well, cool. Here's what I will do. I'll buy that from you. Yes. I had no idea what that meant. Okay, she said yes. Now what do I do? Okay, great. They say I need a contractor. You ready to sign it? Sure. Here. She's like, it's blank. Great. I'll be right back. What do I put my name? All right, thank you. Awesome. Okay, here you go. She's like, all right, thanks. And then I go, okay, I got the contract. Now what do I do? This is coming back to real estate groups very similar to this. I got the contract. What do I do? Well, you need to open escrow. Okay, cool. What's that? I know how to open a book. I can touch one of those. If you've never opened an escrow, you don't even, what's that? Where do I go? You don't know how to open escrow? Why would I? I've never done it. You know how to pole vault? Why would you? You've never done it. And they tell me, oh, you have to go to this person to open escrow. Great, no problem. I go to the escrow place and open it. And then I stop. The escrow lady comes and calls me. Are you going to close this thing? Close what? Escrow. Oh, how do you do that? You've never closed escrow before? No. Mind you, this is a subject to transaction I'm doing. Is this actually low-level stuff? No, I just knew, hey, you take over payments. Sounds good to me. Let's do it that way. I let it be that simple. And she's like, okay, she was a nice lady. Walked me through it. Here's what you do. Okay, great. Thanks. Are we done? No, the other person has to sign it too. Okay, when's that going to happen? Understand, I didn't know. And then later, I end up with the deed to a house, full well knowing I'm squatting in bank-owned property on June 18th, 2008. I'm like, but Mom said that you can't buy a house if you have a foreclosure, but I'm holding the deed. This isn't supposed to happen, but I'm holding the deed. And I was willing to do that. Now, mind you, in that example, did I look good? No muscle. He's like, no. Glad I'm not you. But I had to eat. And that's the only thing that was on my mind. They say if I follow these steps, eventually a check will come and I can eat. Okay, I'll trust you because I got nothing else. And I let it be that simple. With clarity, you can do two things. Decide